The immigration story between the Philippines and the United States is one of deep roots and powerful economic impact. Today, more than 4.2 million Filipino Americans live in the U.S., and over 2 million of them were born in the Philippines. For decades, they've been more than just residents. They've been economic lifelines. In 2024 alone, Filipinos abroad sent home a record $38.34 billion in remittances, fueling education, healthcare, and daily life for millions of families. That's 8.3% of the Philippine GDP, powered largely by those living overseas, especially in the U.S. But in 2025, a series of new U.S. policy proposals threatens to sharply reduce the legal pathways that have connected Filipino families for generations. In April, Senator Jim Banks, R. Indiana, introduced the Nuclear Family Priority Act, S1328, aiming to eliminate visa categories for extended family members and slash the annual cap on family-sponsored green cards from 226,000 to just 80,000. Simultaneously, Republican lawmakers have proposed a budget bill that would cut benefits and raise fees for legal immigrants. These efforts echo the broader agenda of the Project 2025 Blueprint, a hardline plan that seeks to end so-called chain migration, limit sponsorship to only parents and minor children, and shift toward a points-based immigration system. Together, these changes could shut out thousands of Filipino professionals, caregivers, and retirees, not only from entering the U.S., but from reuniting with family already there. In the following sections, we'll break down these proposals, analyze the data behind them, and share the human stories that reveal what's really at stake. Number 1. Legislative crackdown. In 2025, the U.S. Congress isn't just tightening borders, it's redrawing the map of legal immigration itself. At the center of this shift is the Nuclear Family Priority Act, S1328, introduced on April 9, 2025. This bill seeks to eliminate visa pathways for extended family members, including married children and siblings of U.S. citizens, long the backbone of Filipino family migration. The bill's sponsor insists it will end chain migration, cutting over 250,000 family-based green cards per year, and slashing the cap from 226,000 to just 80,000. A matching bill in the House, H.R. 2705, is also advancing in committee. But that's just the beginning. A new Republican-backed budget bill, proposed in May 2025, takes aim at legal immigrants already in the system. It calls for higher application fees, reduced access to social services, and stricter eligibility requirements, moves that disproportionately affect OFWs, nurses, and other Filipino professionals. Then there's Project 2025, Donald Trump's formal immigration blueprint, already endorsed by several GOP-aligned think tanks. This plan proposes abolishing family reunification visas outside of minor children and parents, having employment-based visas like the H-1B, and expanding travel bans and mass deportations. Although the Philippines is not currently on the banned list under Trump's June 2025 proclamation, experts warn that inclusion remains a possibility should diplomatic or economic tensions rise. Let's be clear, these are not distant hypotheticals. They are legislative drafts, committee bills, and policy blueprints in active motion, driven by a Republican-controlled Congress and a potential Trump return to the White House. Supporters claim these reforms will restore order and focus on high-skill migration. But for millions of Filipinos seeking to reunite with family, legally work, or retire in the U.S., they represent closed doors and broken dreams. Number 2. Officials speak out. Behind closed doors and on official podiums, U.S. immigration authorities are speaking with a new tone, one that's cautious at best and chilling at worst. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, has begun signaling an aggressive shift. A June 2025 presidential proclamation expanded travel restrictions on dozens of countries. And while the Philippines was not directly targeted, analysts say the message is unmistakable. Broader enforcement is coming. In March 2025, Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez, issued a stark warning after a 64-year-old Filipina green card holder, a U.S. resident for 5 decades, was detained during a DHS sweep. His statement was clear and haunting. U.S. permanent residence is a privilege, not a right, and it can be revoked. For many Filipinos who have built lives in America, this was not just a warning. It was a wake-up call. Even technical updates from USCIS and DHS carry mixed signals. While a late 2024 rule expanded access to H-2B seasonal work visas, removing the country cap and offering grace periods, immigration advocates see this as a hollow gesture amid a climate of fear. A 2023 USCIS report confirmed the foreign-born population in the U.S. hit a record 47.8 million, with backlogs growing and processing times slowing. Internally, DHS sources have acknowledged a rise in visa-related inquiries from the Philippines, but stress that compliance, not compassion, will guide approvals moving forward. For older Filipino immigrants, the anxiety is real. Could legal status suddenly vanish? Could decades of contribution be erased by a change in mood or administration? Even if you are a green card holder, Ambassador Romualdez warned on GMA News, they can revoke it. These aren't just words, they're red flags. As 2025 unfolds, both sides of the Pacific are watching. And for many, the question is no longer if policies will change, but how quickly those changes will arrive. Number 3. Trends in Filipino migration. The numbers don't lie. Filipino migration to the United States has surged in recent decades, becoming a defining force in both economies. According to a May 2025 Pew Research Center report, nearly 2 million U.S. residents born in the Philippines now live in the country. That's up from 1.3 million just 2 decades ago. In total, the Filipino-American community has grown by 89%, now ranking as the 3rd largest Asian group in the United States, after Indian and Chinese Americans. What's more, nearly half are immigrants, with most having secured legal permanent residency or citizenship through family-based or employment routes. For decades, family reunification has been the backbone of Filipino migration. The 1965 immigration law allowed U.S. citizens to sponsor close relatives, and generations took that path. But another key stream has emerged: work-based immigration, particularly in healthcare and education. Incredibly, Filipinos now make up 4% of all U.S. nurses, with over 200,000 registered Filipino nurses currently working in the American healthcare system. Programs like H-1B for skilled professionals and H-2B for seasonal workers have provided crucial legal pathways. Recent reforms under the Biden administration, such as lifting country caps and adding grace periods, were seen as green lights for Filipino workers. But these very routes are now under the shadow of Project 2025 and proposed legislation. If family categories are slashed or employment visa caps tightened, Filipinos, who currently account for 3% of all H-1B holders, stand to lose big. The Migration Policy Institute warns that even small regulatory changes could lock out thousands of qualified applicants. And it's not just about nurses or tech workers. Many older Filipinos dreaming of reuniting with children or retiring with family in the U.S. could find the doors quietly closing. In essence, while data shows a vibrant and growing stream of legal Filipino migration, 2025's proposed immigration restrictions threaten to reverse that trajectory. If the laws change, it won't just be about numbers. It'll be about families torn apart and futures left uncertain. Number 4. Economic lifelines at risk. When we talk about Filipino migration, we're not just discussing visas or paperwork. We're talking about lifelines, streams of hard-earned dollars that flow across oceans and keep millions of families afloat. In 2024 alone, Filipino overseas workers sent home a record $38.34 billion, a 3% increase from the previous year. According to Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the United States was the single largest contributor to this surge. These remittances now make up 8.3% of the Philippines' GDP, funding everything from college tuition and hospital bills to rice on the table in remote villages. This isn't just money, it's progress. The United Nations has highlighted that every 10% increase in remittances can reduce poverty by nearly 3.5% and improve education outcomes for children. That's real, measurable change, powered by every Filipino working night shifts in New York, staffing hospitals in California, or teaching in rural Midwest schools. But now, with Washington eyeing major cuts to family-based and employment visas, this entire system is under threat. Fewer visas mean fewer workers. Fewer workers mean fewer remittances. The social consequences are just as stark. Families that relied on 2 incomes may lose legal status for one parent. Grandparents who planned to retire with children in the U.S. may be denied entry. A quiet anxiety is spreading through Filipino communities in both America and the provinces, from Brooklyn to Bohol. As one U.S. consular officer put it, older Filipino immigrants are already on edge. Many fear they'll be the next to lose everything, even after decades of following every rule. The truth is painful. These new policies threaten to unravel decades of family building, financial stability, and hard-won opportunity. The migrant story isn't just about borders. It's about bonds. And in 2025, those bonds could be tested like never before. Number 5. Human stories. Filipino lives on the line. Behind every immigration policy is a human heartbeat. As Washington tightens its grip on visa rules, countless Filipino families are left navigating uncertainty, fear, and heartbreak. In California, aspiring nurses Bianca and Francis had long prepared for the American dream. They passed their exams, secured sponsorships, but now they watch news headlines hinting at harsher visa scrutiny. "We know the U.S. needs nurses," Francis told GMA News, "but we feel like the door is closing just as we're about to enter." Their story echoes across the diaspora. Filipinos are wanted for their skills, yet increasingly unwelcome on paper. This tension has already taken a toll. In early 2025, a Filipino mother of 3, known publicly as Michelle, was detained for over 4 months in Tacoma, Washington, despite holding a valid green card. Her release, just days before Mother's Day, came only after a local advocacy campaign. Her crime? A minor administrative mix-up, caught in a sweeping ICE enforcement surge. Michelle's case is not isolated, immigrant rights groups warned. It's a symptom of deeper systemic failures. Meanwhile, Llewellyn Dixon, a 64-year-old Filipina with half a century in the U.S., was detained at her own home in Seattle after a routine vacation to Manila. She held permanent residency, yet still found herself behind bars. The Philippine ambassador responded bluntly, "Even if you are a green card holder, that's a privilege, and privileges can be revoked." These incidents are not just isolated tragedies. They represent a pattern. In June 2025, ICE raids in Los Angeles swept up over 100 residents, including a Filipino homeowner who had sponsored relatives on legal visas. Surveillance footage showed agents moving through neighborhoods while the Philippine consulate scrambled to identify and assist detained nationals. That same week, immigrant families across the U.S. rushed to attend webinars hosted by Filipino community lawyers, preparing for a future that suddenly felt fragile. From anxious students in Cebu delaying U.S. study plans, to retirees in Texas living with one suitcase always packed, these stories remind us that policy isn't abstract, it's personal. And for millions of Filipinos in America, the debate over visas and migration isn't just about law. It's about whether their family stays together or gets torn apart. The thread tying the Philippines and the United States runs deeper than immigration forms. It runs through generations of sacrifice, shared history, and the quiet hope for a better future. But today, that thread is fraying. As the U.S. inches closer to policies that could close doors to Filipino professionals, parents, and permanent residents, one question rises. Will this be the end of the bridge, or the moment we fight to keep it standing? We've walked through the numbers, the laws, the speeches. But more importantly, we've heard the human stories of nurses like Bianca and Francis, ready to serve but held back by bureaucracy, of mothers like Michelle, who faced detention despite legal status, of elders like Lulin, who found 50 years of life in America suddenly questioned. Their stories are not isolated, they represent thousands, and their future may rest on how we respond now. So, what can you do? Share this video with friends, especially those affected by these policies. Awareness is the first step. Leave a comment below. Your experience or opinion could help others feel seen, or even guide them to resources. Subscribe to Discovering the Earth for more fact-based, human-centered coverage of global migration stories.